Yesterday, I had an incredible opportunity, an honor, if you will, to attend a gathering that I, if you'd asked me 6 months ago, would you be going to this gathering? I probably would have said, I don't know anything about it. I don't know if I'd be going. But yesterday when I was there, I was among probably 100, maybe 150 people, could have been more than that. I do know they packed the house. I do know they came from all over the country. And they came from all over the country to honor one person. One person. A person who I'd never laid eyes on until yesterday. The first time I saw her face was the last time her face will be seen on earth. But she left a legacy. I don't know that she ever held a title of leader or manager or boss or anything like that. I don't know. I'm not saying she didn't. I'm just saying I don't know. But I'll tell you what I do know in this lesson. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and yesterday I met the friends and family of Marie Carter. Marie Carter. Now, I didn't know Marie Carter, like I said, never laid eyes on her, never seen her face before yesterday. But I've known her son for a couple of years now. We've traveled across the country together. We've done some stuff together in the realm of business and faith and politics, some work in the inner city and some work around the country. And I've gotten to know Bruce, her son, who has a couple of siblings, I believe 2 sisters, if I'm not mistaken, and a few brothers that may not all be biological brothers. They are all, nonetheless, people who have called Ree Callender mom for a long time. And one of the things that I noticed was the grasp of relationship that Ree Callender focused on. The ability to build relationship with people from all over the country, under all kinds of circumstances, people of all ages that she, as they said when they spoke of her, taught them to cook, taught them to parent, taught them how to build relationships, told them when they were wrong. Even ministers and pastors who spoke from the platform, those who stood in line to wish her well and to share their thoughts and feelings about how she impacted their life for the family's sake. Even those people said, she told me when I was wrong. She corrected me. She stood her ground. And even when we disagreed, she was very solid and very vocal about it. But see, that kind of life, the kind of life that causes 150 people to come and say goodbye, is not a life that's lived by accident. Let me say that again. That's not the kind of life that's lived by accident. I find that people that kind of muddle through life, people that make their way from birth to death, and they don't pay any attention necessarily to anything more than themselves and how much money they can put in the bank and what kind of car they drive and what kind of clothes they can wear and maybe even what kind of job they can have or education they can have. The people who are so focused on those things and not focused on the world around them abroad, not focused on the neighbor next door or the kids who show up in their yard, the people who live that kind of life generally don't leave the kind of mark that causes 150 people to come around and say, "We're so glad you were here." Now that kind of life, that takes intention. I mean, you got to do that on purpose. You've got to be intentional about loving people. You've got to be intentional about caring for and caring about people in order to leave that kind of mark. I find that leaders who have that intention sometimes don't know. Here's what I mean by that. It is possible to be a good person on purpose without having the awareness that what you're doing is building a phenomenal legacy. It is possible to intentionally be kind to people, considerate to people, giving to people, adding value to people. It's possible to do all of those things without the awareness that when you're gone, it's going to leave a tremendous legacy. Because it is possible just to do the right thing again and again and again. It is possible to simply be a good person again and again and again with no ulterior motive. It is possible. It's even possible to say that someone spoke into my life positive things, powerful things, correcting things. They told me no when I needed it, and they encouraged me when I needed that as well. And then have that kind of life lived out through you as well, with no grand scheme in your mind at all, no plan to be remembered that way. But I can also tell you, there are plenty of people who have intentionally built legacies, stored up lots of wealth, put their names on libraries, built giant buildings. And yet, the way they're remembered, their brand, if you will, is not something you'd want to repeat. It's not the kind of life you would say, I want to be that kind of person. I want to leave that kind of mark when I'm gone. Oh, it's possible to intentionally build a legacy that no one wants to carry on. And it's also possible to intentionally be a good person unaware of the kind of legacy that you're going to leave. It strikes me as I think back over the last 5 or 10 years, the number of funerals that I've attended. And the number of funerals that I've attended where, regardless of the size of the family, there were plenty of friends, there were plenty of others who gathered from around the state, from around the country, to wish farewell to this individual. Some of those have been just family, 2 or 3 people gathered around. Some of those have been a dozen or so people gathered around. And some of those, like yesterday, have been hundreds of people gathered around. And oddly enough, I find myself in a season of life where just in the next month, I have 2 more Celebration of Life memorial services that we'll be attending. Actually, we're being hired to make sure that all of the audio-visual aspect of that is a big deal. But it really strikes my heart to ask, what kind of impact will I leave? Have I been aware of the relationships that I'm building? Have I been aware and intentional of the lives that I'm impacting? Well, I'm more aware of it every day because, as we all know, the end is imminent. We don't know when it's coming. We don't know if it'll be 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, 2 decades, or longer. But we know it's coming. So the question I have for you today as leaders is, when they gather to say goodbye, to celebrate your transition to the next life, will people remember you for the positive things that you've invested in their life? Will they remember you for the kind words that you've said, for the challenging words that you've said, for the encouragements and the no's? And the yes, please go for it, and the no, that's a really bad idea. Will they care about those things? Will they care about the times that you sat and held their hands while they cried? Will they care about the times that you wrote a little note for them, that you left a kind word behind for them? See, those last words and last wishes may not roll off your tongue right now because you feel like you have forever to say it. Take the time now and put them in a journal. Even if you just lock them away and say, after I'm gone, you can read this. Take the time and do it now while you're lucid. Do it now while you can. Do it now because you don't know if it will be 5 minutes or 5 days, 5 weeks, months, years, or decades. But right now, while it's on the top of your mind, take 5 minutes and write something down that you can leave behind for those that you care about, because there will be a day that you won't have a chance to say goodbye. And there might be words that you wish you'd said then, that right now is the best opportunity to say them. What kind of legacy will you leave behind as a leader? Will it be intentional or unintentional? Are you aware of the kind of impact that you have the opportunity to leave? It's totally up to you, and no one controls that but you. I challenge you as a leader to make it a legacy worth remembering. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom.